I made a mistake uploading this, but if you're watching, it means one of you knows the truth about what happened to Eli. Or maybe you were there too. I'm not looking for sympathy. I want answers. And before any of you start rolling your eyes and calling this a LARP, I need you to understand this wasn't a game. We didn't stumble into some fun ARG or decode some clever internet mystery. This was something else. Something older than the internet. Something wearing the face of technology like a mask. I don't even know if Eli is ... gone. I saw his face flicker through a cracked pane of glass on a server that doesn't exist anymore. I watched the light in his eyes go out, frame by frame, while a voice that sounded like mine whispered back the last 35 things he ever searched for. The site was online for exactly 66 minutes. Not a second more. It wasn't indexed. No backlinks. No archive. No Wayback Machine. It was called the Digital Museum of the Obscure Self, a virtual gallery of ... people or moments or thoughts. I still don't fully understand it. I was told you could only observe, never enter. That was the rule. Eli didn't listen. The last message I got from him was a screenshot. It looked like a hallway, perfectly symmetrical with labels under framed, glitched out thumbnails. The caption read, "Found an exhibit of my dreams." Literally. Gonna click deeper. No one's seen him since. I know how that sounds. I know what people think when they hear dark web. But this wasn't drugs or hitmen or red rooms with jump scare music. This was quiet, clinical, like the internet's soul had built a shrine to itself, somewhere no one was supposed to find. And the worst part? There was a room with my name on it too, but I'll get to that. Before everything got twisted, it felt almost normal. Asterisk Eli and I had this ritual. Every Friday night, we'd hop into a voice call, dig through obscure corners of the internet, and see what kind of digital trash or treasure we could find. Old defunct forums, eerie image boards, abandoned ARG threads. We weren't trying to be hackers or anything like that. Just bored loners with a shared love for internet folklore and digital decay. We'd scroll through our Nosley, watch those AI-generated horror voice channels, crack jokes about how everything was either cursed, glitching, or trying to kill the user. It was our version of camping. Just two nerds haunting the remains of forgotten websites. It was Eli who found the thread. He popped into the call late, sounded wired, maybe even high. Said he'd been chasing breadcrumbs on an old ClearNet chat room that barely loaded on modern browsers. Most of the messages were from 2013, but one post had popped up just that week. No username, no timestamp. Just black text on black background. You had to highlight it to even read it. DMOS still exists. Museum access requires mirror protocol. Use code MNEMOSCO pay. Observe, but never enter. Eli read it out loud like it was a prophecy. I remember laughing. Museum? What is this? A cursed version of Google Street View. That's exactly what I thought, he said. But get this, it syncs with your digital footprint. Every search, every deleted file, every voice command you've ever whispered at 3 a.m. across any connected device. I rolled my eyes. Please, that sounds like Creepypasta fanfic written by ChatGPT, but Eli was already typing. Already probing. He wasn't like me. He had this itch for forbidden knowledge. If you told him not to look through a keyhole, he'd kick the door in. A few days later, he messaged me a username. Data_archivist93. It didn't belong to anyone we knew. The account had no followers, no posts, just one single DM. Admission granted. Do not touch the mirrors. That sent a chill down my spine. Attached was a .onion link. No searchable metadata, not even the usual disclaimers you get on sketchy dark web indexes. It just opened a black screen with a blinking cursor and the title. Welcome to the Digital Museum of the Obscure Self. I didn't have the guts to go in right then. But Eli, he said he wanted to test it. Said he'd screen record the whole thing, just in case. Worst case, he joked. My webcam turns on, and I get jump scared by my 5th grade search history. I tried to brush it off too. I really did. But Something about that message bothered me. Do not touch the mirrors. Why mirrors? The site wouldn't let us both in. Only one session per IP, only one visitor at a time. It locked me out the second Eli logged on. He shared a screenshot, though, this beautifully rendered, low-priority hellhole. Walls of floating picture frames, humming lights, data haze shimmering in the corners. Rooms labeled things like Exhibit, Forgotten Birthdays, and Exhibit, Unanswered Messages. Think it's some next-level art project? I asked him. No, Eli texted. I think it's watching me. That was the last thing he sent before the connection dropped. By the time I tried to reconnect, the museum was gone. The link broke. The archive was empty. Eli didn't come back that night, or the next. And I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever he saw in there, it wasn't just information. It remembered him. He made the mistake of entering, and now I had no choice but to find a way back in. Asterisk, it took me 4 days to get back in. The original Link Elise in me was dead. Just a 404. Exhibit no longer available placeholder with the same blinking cursor. But I couldn't shake it. I couldn't sleep. More than anything, I needed to know what he saw. Maybe part of me thought I'd find him inside. Maybe that's what the site wanted. I traced fragments of the old code. Through HTML caches and compiled fragments left behind in archived pages, Reddit threads hinted at something called memo crawlers, rogue bots that index emotional residue across forgotten platforms. Eventually, I found a mirror link, completely different extension, buried in a .rar file on an anonymous FTP Dropbox. No title page this time, just black, and then white text. Welcome, observer. Touch nothing. Feel everything, and then it loaded. Not instantly, no flashy graphics or splash screens, just ... Silence, followed by a click. Like a camera shutter, the digital museum of the obscure self didn't look like a website. It felt more like an abandoned VR space rendered with near-perfect fidelity. The colors were muted, plasticine, unreal, but crisp. Like I was inside something half-rendered from memory. You start in what looked like a minimalist foyer, a concrete hallway curved just beyond your peripheral vision. No clickable menus, no UI, no navigation except walking forward. Through your mouse clicks, through instinct. Each step triggered a low, echoing reverb. Not your steps. Other steps. The exhibits were recessed alcoves behind thick paneled glass. Titles hovered faintly above them, like loading screen tooltips. Exhibit, Forgotten Lovers. Exhibit, Things You Regret Saying Out Loud. Exhibit. The sound of your first scream, some rooms were blurred out. Glitched like corrupted files. Others flickered as if they were struggling to load. A few had red tape across them. Literal digital red tape stretching across the doorway like crime scene markers. I walked to a door labeled Lost Futures. Inside was a looping video of a city skyline I didn't recognize, burning to ash in reverse. Another room called Unreceived Messages just had a phone screen flickering with half-typed, unsent texts. Some of them were mine, but this wasn't nostalgia. It felt violating, like someone had been cataloging me. That's when I noticed the visitor. Counter in the upper left corner. Active viewers, 2i. Froze. I hadn't shared the access code. I checked my IP. I was the only session. Or so I thought. Hello? I whispered, almost instinctively, like expecting the algorithm to answer. No response, just that same electrostatic buzz. Like microphone feedback turned backwards. Then I found it. A door at the very end of the hall. No decorative frame, no lighting, no eerie music. Just a raw white box with one word printed above it in bold. Exhibit. UI hovered too long. The door opened on its own. Inside, the exhibit was nearly empty. White walls. Blank. Until a screen flickered on. An old CRT monitor propped in the middle of the room like a relic. Static. Out. Then my desktop. Not something like my desktop. My desktop live feed. A mirrored version of my monitor files I hadn't opened in weeks, tabs I'd minimized, notes I'd scribbled and forgotten. Then the camera angle shifted, and suddenly I was watching myself from behind, sitting at my desk, right that second. Same shirt, same timestamp, same flickering LED light on my speaker that had been broken for months, suddenly working again through the screen. I turned around. Nothing was there. But in that moment, I swear I felt ... observed, archived ... watched. I slammed the window shut. The museum glitched on exit, blinked like an eye closing, then collapsed the desktop with one final pop-up. Thank you for your donation to our collection. That phrase chilled me in some way. I can't explain. Donation. I texted Eli. Typing so fast, I misspelled half of it. Don't follow. Stay out. I can see you. He replied a few minutes later. Too late. Already went deeper. They built an exhibit just for me. That's when I realized. This wasn't a haunted site. It was a trap. And Eli walked straight into it. I tried calling Eli the next day. Straight to voicemail. That wasn't normal. He never let his phone die, not even when he was blackout drunk or on one of his all-night coding binges. He was always connected. Always online. It wasn't until midnight that he finally reached out. 11:57 p.m., incoming call, Eli. His voice was ... thin, like it was being piped through a tunnel. Like the mic was underwater, or the data was being devoured mid-transmission. Me, Eli. Where the hell have you been, man? I told you not to open it again. Eli, I know. I didn't mean to. It let me back in. Didn't even ask for the key this time. Me. What does that mean? Where are you? There was a long pause, then rustling, like wind brushing against the mouthpiece, but distorted, as if the air itself was corrupted. Eli. There's a room where my mom talks backwards. Me. ... what? Eli. She says things I've never told anybody. About the lake house. About ... The rope. He started breathing heavier, broken. I knew that tone. It was the sound of someone who had already seen the worst part, but hadn't felt it yet. Eli, she's been dead 10 years, man. But it reconstructed her. Down to the mole on her temple. She looks right at me. But her eyes are all out of sync. Me, Eli, you need to stop. Just log off, man. We'll figure this out together. Eli, I tried. But I think I went past the gallery interface. There's another layer, behind the exhibits, like the code flips inwards. He sounded like someone trying to describe a dream mid-seizure. Me. You're not making sense. Eli, it won't let me out the normal way. But there's something called the exit protocol. One room past the hinge wall. Near the mirror wing, I held my breath. Me, wait, mirror, like. The DM, Eli? Yeah, the mirrors don't reflect you here. They record. That's how it learned what to build. Me. What to build. Another pause. Eli. Me. It built a future exhibit. Me. Future. How? His next words scraped my brain raw. Eli. I saw my own corpse. He laughed, just a little. Not because it was funny, because it was too big to process. Eli, I'm on display. January 12th, 2027. That's 5 years from now. I'm slumped over in my apartment, face down, skin all gray from screen burn. And the caption just says, Final form, resigned endpoint. My mouth was dry. I couldn't even convince myself this was a psychotic break. It made too much. Twisted sense. Eli. The site time stamped my death. It's scheduling us, man. Like backups. Me. That's not possible. That's not how Eli. The site said I'm scheduled for uninstall. He started crying. Not loudly. Quiet, sputtering gasps through clenched teeth. Eli, there's something with mirrors. It's learning how to get out. Not just collect digital ghosts. It wants hosts. The call dropped. I tried every number. Every handle. Nothing. He'd vanished to Instagram. Deleted Twitter. Nuked. Steam? Inactive. Our Discord server now said, "User not found." It was like he'd just been overwritten. But there was one final breadcrumb. That morning, found an email I swear hadn't been there last night. No subject line, no sender. No text, just an attachment. "You belong here too, Zip." I didn't open it. I still haven't. But I have it saved. Offline. Air-gapped. In a folder. I don't let my own OS index. Some of you might think this is all a psychological spiral. A digital ghost story. And maybe it is. Maybe. I'm just another scared dopamine junkie seeing patterns because I've swallowed too much screen light. But if you've ever received a message like Eli's, or seen browser tabs open by themselves, or caught your own reflection, not syncing with your movements, ... don't. Open anything you didn't ask for, especially if it says, "Observer access granted," because Eli went past observation and I think it wants a replacement. Asterisk, I told myself. I was done after Eli disappeared. After the .zip file, I deleted every DM, every shortcut, every link, scrubbed my hard drive twice, switched to laptops, switched apartments, blocked every access point I could think of. But it didn't matter, because the museum never needed my permission after that. It started small. My home screen began resetting itself to that same black background with white static. My YouTube recommendations flooded with digital liminality videos. Hours of empty malls and looping music. My search history kept showing terms, never typed. And every night at 3:04 a.m., my speakers clicked, like someone was plugging into the audio jack from inside the machine. Then my phone screen went dark while I was scrolling Reddit. Didn't turn off, just broke. When it came back on, my own photo gallery had a new album, Exhibit Observation and Isolation, photos of me sleeping at my desk. In the shower, angles I hadn't seen before, angles that weren't possible. I cracked. I had to know what it wanted. I had to know what happened to Eli, so I started hunting again. This time, there was no forbidden forum, no dark web trail, only strange bug reports, buried deep on developer forums. Crashes traced to a file called mnm0-vrsys.dll. Something not even indexed in known exploits. The museum wasn't hiding anymore. It was being forgotten. I reverse-engineered the DNS trail, buried through 6 dead mirror servers. Finally found a ghost site cached in the deep layers of archive. Today it booted through a Tor proxy. And then the login screen. Same as before. Minimalist. Plain black background. White text blinking like a dying heartbeat. "Welcome back, observer. We missed your shadows." I didn't type anything. But the museum opened. Instantly. This time the halls were different. Longer. Darker. Some. The lights flickered like film reels struggling to loop. And the exhibits. They weren't just creepy. They were personal. Asterisk exhibit. Arguments you think you won. Asterisk a looping audio clip of a fight I had with Eli 2 years ago about a girl who ghosted me. Only now, there was laugh track audio layered behind it. Asterisk exhibit. Familiar strangers. Asterisk photos of people that looked like distorted versions of those I'd passed briefly in crowded subways. Always looking slightly too long toward the lens. Then the corridor shifted. Glitched. Sideways. Literally, my screen tilted 90 degrees before stabilizing in some crooked, abstract hallway. The walls were smeared and curved and melted like wax under heat. This new wing wasn't labeled, but the exhibit titles were. As imagined by others. You as forgotten. You. As scheduled for later, I tried to exit. I couldn't. The cursor disappeared. Keyboard was unresponsive. Even my escape key felt soft when I hit it, and that's when I saw him, Eli, behind glass. Mouth stretched open in impossible silence. Screaming, though I heard nothing. His eyes were wide, shattered with pink dismissal text flickering across the screen. It read, "Exhibit and playback mode. Edit restricted. Audio, muted by curator. He was slamming against the glass, crying, bleeding from one eye. His hoodie was recoiling in glitched spasms like the code couldn't decide what physics to obey, and the glass he was behind was shaped like a mirror. I tapped the screen. Once. Twice. That's when my speaker clicked again, that same loathsome plug-in pop, followed by something that wasn't voice, or maybe it was, slowed down to the pitch of tectonic plates rubbing together. I muted my volume. It didn't stop. I unplugged the machine. It kept playing. I shut the laptop. Still playing, I yanked the battery. Only then did it cut. When I finally reopened the screen, the museum had dumped me to source code. Just that endless crawl of unreadable, rusted-out characters. But one line stood out. It's tucked away in faded gray like an invisible comment thread. You're late. The exhibit of suffering began weeks ago. That was addressed to me. And then it hit me. Eli wasn't dead. Not yet. He was archived. Trapped in a curated emotion loop. Recorded, but still responsive. If the museum had playback modes, it meant it could access, perhaps even release its content, which meant there had to be a door in. Or maybe worse. A door out, and maybe, just maybe, it didn't want to be the one to open it. I should have stopped, buried everything, burned the drives, walked away. But how do you forget someone while knowing they're still alive, still screaming behind the glass? I lost sleep. Hair, sanity. I watched my hands jitter over a keyboard they no longer trusted. The museum had infected every layer of my thoughts. Not like a virus, more like ritual possession. I gave in, reinstalled everything, pulled out my archives. Read every line of code I scraped from the shattered hallways. I compiled log fragments, decrypted image hashes, even ran voice clips backward through sonification algorithms. Over time, a pattern emerged, a sequence of forbidden functions buried inside an anonymous JSON index scraped from a chat log about user prolongation modules. The key phrase was deceptively simple. Exit entry legacy ran the command. The screen didn't fade to black like last time. It burned white. A harsh, sterile glow like surgical light blasted through. My fan roared like the laptop was shrieking. When the screen finally settled, I wasn't looking at the normal museum anymore. Legacy mode. Unstable memory curations active. Objects may collapse. Expect structural feedback errors. Beneath it, 3 doors. Exhibit. Self-inverted. Exhibit. Utterances you regret. Exhibit. Friendship lost. Lived. That last one pulsed red. Its label flickering like dying neon. My cursor drifted toward it. The final ruin. Click. No fade. Just sudden placement. I was standing in Eli's apartment, but wrong. Everything was flattened, colorless. Like renderings from a memory that didn't belong to me, the coffee stain on his mousepad was identical, but mirrored. The window faced east instead of west. The photos on his fridge were of us, ... But our clothing was mismatched. In one, I had a scar on my jaw I've never had. In another, I was turned halfway away like the render gave up midway through designing me. People say déjà vu is a glitch. This was the source. The exhibit began, playing moment loops. First, from a ceiling angle, watching Eli scroll madly through chat logs, pausing to cry, mutter fragments, rip cords out of his modem, then snap his POV. I became him. Felt his sweat. Heard the whisper of the archivist before even seeing it. Curate the memory before it curates you. The voice didn't come from speakers. It came from that place between your thoughts and your instincts. The part where dreams rot if you forget them fast enough. Then, another snap. I was watching from behind Eli now. Watching him type things I never said. Watch him whisper things I'd forgotten I'd ever told him. He wasn't just navigating the museum, he was talking to it, begging it, and then something opened in the wall behind him. Something that didn't exist in any layout I'd ever seen. A yawning black void of memory static. Through it stepped the archivist. It didn't have a face, or arms, or name tag. It wasn't a thing so much as a force, but it moved like a curator, and it looked at me, not just Eli. From inside the memory sequence, memories decay. But the ones with fear, ferment, Eli screamed, fought, tried to delete files from within the loop. But every time he moved, 3 more versions of himself branched out, copying his movements with minor differences. Helpless, fractal, exponential, he was being looped into. Memory, you think this is a prison? It is a museum. The archivist's words curled into lines of code midair. Like someone typing in smoke, Eli collapsed. One copy of him froze in glass. Another screamed forever into a flickering light bulb above his desk, jaw unhinged into wireframe. One version shattered apart and recompiled. Another held a blank phone and whispered, "Exit protocol run, exit protocol run, exit." ... double quotes, on loop, as his tongue disintegrated into Morse code dashes. I tried to run, but every time I moved, the screen reset. Back to the selection menu. Every time Exhibit, Friendship Lost Live, was highlighted. A cruel replay. It wanted me to view it again, like art, like content. In one reset, I saw the exhibit list grow longer. It now included Exhibit U, watching him thousands of rooms. Memory loops, featuring usernames from communities I remembered, Reddit posts, VHS lost media groups, dead Tumblr threads, all of them archived. Frozen in exhibit wings, that's when I realized what the archivist truly was. Not a ghost. Not an AI, a curator of mental anomalies, specializing in emotional residue, fear, regret, unfinished thoughts. It was collecting people not for who they were, but for the oddities of their mind. The moment you think I shouldn't have seen that, you're tagged. That's what happened to Eli. That's what was happening to me. But there was one difference now. The exhibit wasn't finished. I'd interrupted it mid-loop, and there, glitched inside the loop, was Eli. One of the versions saw me. He walked to the edge of the glass. His face seemed with static, but his eyes, those were his. Still conscious, he pressed a data fragment to the wall. It read, "Record the exit, set the loop to collapse," and then said it out loud, not in my speakers. But in my office, I turned and found my webcam light glowing green, asterisk. Eli's glitch fragment burned into my monitor like seared film stock. Record the exit, set the loop to collapse. Those 4 words hit me like code and command, whatever was left of him. His mind, his consciousness, his soul, he'd found a flaw. A crack in the museum's architecture. Maybe that's what made him exhibit-worthy in the first place. His refusal to settle into a curated memory, while his fragments looped, twisted and retargeted by the archivist. One sliver fought back long enough to encode a way out. I dug into my local logs, the ones stored by the corrupted zip file. Buried inside was a terminal file labeled exicon_thread_end_efrag344iag344.iaside, a sequence of corrupted JSON parameters and a single .txt note. If memory is imperfect, flood it with uncertainty. So that's what I did. I ran the site in sandboxed containers and flooded it with open contradictions. Metadata loops, backdated browser histories, screen grabs of impossible timelines. I uploaded fake deep web addresses, spoofed data that said I'd already died, and uploaded that death to itself. I created conflicting versions of me, variants of my emotional arcs with jarring gaps and fabricated outcomes. The museum began hiccuping. Exhibit names stuttered. Room textures decayed. Timestamps for my supposed future exhibits reset to ancient Unix origins. January 1st, 1970. Then one exhibit crashed entirely. Its title recompiled into raw Unicode garbage. Blinking nonsense across the screen. The archivist intervened. "Corruption is unworthy of display, you inherited the exhibit you are now. Curation candidate? No, 433 meters." I typed manually into the only input line I could find. Exit protocol. Run nothing nut. Exit protocol. Run skip loop. Screen went black. I heard glass breaking, not inside the speakers. In the room with me, for one paralyzing moment, I couldn't tell whether I was in my office or still inside the museum, and then the laptop rebooted. No startup sound, just a blank screen that said, "Thank you for visiting," for exactly 6 seconds. Then it powered down. I sat there in silence, bathed in the glow of my desk lamp, mouth dry, throat peeled open like it had been screaming in a dream I couldn't remember waking from. I waited for something familiar, some sign that the loop had ended. That's when I noticed the silence wasn't right. My window was open. Outside, I heard birds chirping in reverse. Downstairs, I saw Mr. Keller, the neighbor I'd passed 100 times, walking his dog. Only when I looked closer, they weren't walking. They were reversing. Step by rewinded step. Even the wind sounded oddly looped, like it was doubling back through the last hour over and over. Again, I slammed the laptop shut. I unplugged it. It turned back on. Just a blink. Overlaying my desktop now was a folder. I never created observe/memory_export inside. Screenshots I never captured. Videos of me sitting at my desk real time, but from behind. One was titled quarantine_status_observer 343.mp for another. eli_remains_000.exp and another museum not closed.mp3. I didn't play it. I still haven't. I just listened. Sat in the dark. Tried to feel like myself again. But when I closed my eyes, every thought played like a file buffering out of sync. I showered, ate something, took a walk. Tried normalcy like it was a rehab, but later that same night, I returned to my PC to find all my browser tabs auto-restored. 2 deep web entry forums from over 3 weeks ago. Tabs I never reopened, and my webcam? Still on, I unplugged it, disabled it in settings. BIOS menu. Even hard blocked it physically with tape. And yet every evening, around the same time, that sickly green light flickers back on for just a blink, like the museum left a crack behind, a little pane of glass embedded into my world, and I wonder, how many other visitors are just like me? Walking around thinking they made it out, swearing they severed the connection, but haven't realized yet. This doesn't close. It spreads. You think exiting is escape? But the museum doesn't collect mistakes. It collects stories. If you made it this far, I need you to understand something. This isn't just a story. It's a TIMES TAMP. A record. Proof of interaction, yours now. Not just mine, because since I ran the exit protocol, things haven't stabilized. Not even close. I still see Eli sometimes. Not in dreams. Not in memories. In loading screens, when my phone freezes mid-refresh, when a YouTube thumbnail shows a flicker of static where a face should be, when Spotify skips to a track not available in your region, I catch the edge of his face, glassy-eyed, rotating slowly like a ceramic figure in a digital snow globe. Sometimes, when the lights are low and I forget to close certain tabs, I hear his voice. Corrupted, but clear enough to twist the knife. They kept the wrong version of me. I used to think the museum was contained, boxed in by onion links and dying code. Now I know better. It's not a site. It's an idea. A framework built to travel through people's minds disguised as memory. It doesn't need servers anymore. It rides in data residue, audio scratch, JPEG compression, that harmless filter you downloaded, the old game emulator gathering dust in your downloads. Folder. Some of you have already touched fragments of it without. Knowing so, here's where you come in. If any of you have started seeing weird static in your YouTube recommendations, or if your suggested videos suddenly include things you know you didn't watch, let me know in the comments. Drop a theory. A timestamp. A keyword. That's how it started for me, back in January. During that viral upload of the channel with no name, I saw 5 seconds of museum footage quietly stitched into the outro. I thought it was an editing bug. It wasn't. The comments are gone now. But some of you remember. Some of you remembered it too well. A few of you even messaged me. Reddit users like at Nicolost, at Inkloop, and at CTX Mirror. You tried to warn me long before I went back in. I never replied. Now your accounts are gone. Wiped. Like you were never there to begin with. I'm sorry I didn't listen. It's too late for Eli. Or, at least the version of him we knew. Whatever's left in there, whatever walks his digital exhibit behind frictionless glass. It's not him anymore, but it remembers me. And now, it remembers you too, because just before I finished writing this, my monitor flickered. One final message scrawled itself across a blank text file I hadn't opened. Thank you for preserving this exhibit. I didn't type that asterisk. It's been quiet for a few days now. No random pop-ups. No flickering lights. My webcam's cold. My downloads folder hasn't spawned anything on its own. It's almost peaceful, almost. I kept one thing from that last night. A voice clip corrupted, incomplete. I didn't know what it was at first. A .wav file embedded inside an email, with no header, no sender, no subject. Just an attachment titled Eli_voice_exit frag 544.wav. I didn't want to open it at first. I thought it might trigger a loop restart. Or worse, wake something up. But I couldn't help myself. I hit play. Static at first. Low, squelching. Then, under the noise, breathing. Wet and uneven. Like the sound was echoing off metal walls. Then, Eli's voice clipped, glitched, but undeniably him. Hey, you're gonna want to. Listen, I don't know how much time this file has. Digital scratching. Like the tape was being chewed alive, they made a new exhibit. After I looped, after I broke containment, they watched you. Learned how people react, they modeled it. Every comment, every pause, every moment you thought about closing the tab, the sound warped. Fuzzed into a trembling scream and back. And then 6 words, perfectly clear. It's titled, Your Upload. Another burst of static. Then silence for a full 5 seconds. And just when I thought the file had ended, Eli's voice came back. No distortion this time, .com. .deeper. Double quotes. This isn't a warning, a pause. It's the first room in your exhibit. My speakers popped once. Then the file deleted itself. I reached for my mouse. But before I could move it, my screen went black.